The Hinuch in the Haredi world is essentially what it says here, Shemechanechim otan la'avod mira'ah. So again, it's not always definitely, totally, unequivocally the incorrect approach. But if it stops there, if that's the sum total of that approach, and that is basically how it works in the Haredi world, it's far from perfect. That has to be admitted as well. It should be admitted by reasonably honest and perceptive people. The aim should be initially you begin with Yir'ah more, the emphasis is more on Yir'ah, and eventually that is the and Rambam's implication here is that this applies to everybody, including those he mentions here. The problem is that by and large the Haredi world in its present configuration, in its present Gilgul, shall we say, has turned everyone into Amei Aretz Nashim and Ktanim. And that's a very sad commentary on the Haredi world. Again, I'm not suggesting that other streams, other ideologies are beyond reproach. Far from it. There, the mistake perhaps is quite the opposite. There's not enough Yirah to begin with. But nevertheless, Rambam's statement is to be taken very seriously. Certainly, one cannot achieve truly profound and high levels of Torah understanding and erudition and insight, not to mention higher levels like Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah. But let's be modest for now. Let's talk about lower levels of Ruach HaKodesh. Rambam discusses 10 levels of Ruach HaKodesh. Let's talk about the lower levels of Ruach HaKodesh. That too, you will not, in my view, engender, and you will not find, or rarely will you find it, in simplistic and somewhat primitive systems of education. Also, you will not find true profundity and depth of understanding. You will not find amongst people, even if they're highly intelligent and they've been very diligent in their studies for many years, you will not find people who have been influenced and have been taught and have learned everything according to one system, according to one ideology, one approach for all their lives, whatever age they are now. They may be 20 now, they may be 80 years old now. But any Chacham who has seen only one way of looking at things is by definition, this should be self-evident, will not be on the same level, is unlikely to achieve the same level of understanding and profundity. And true Chokhmah, as someone who has studied Torah according from different angles, according to different approaches, has understood the Shita of this Chacham, that Hashkafa, etc., etc. This is true going back to the time of Sifrut Hazal. In other words, someone who studied Bavli and Yerushalmi is going to usually be, if all things being equal, he will have a greater understanding, a greater, broader and deeper understanding of Torah than someone who studied only one or the other. And the same is true for someone who studied only Talmud and Halacha, but not Agadah, not Midrashay Agadah, as opposed to those who have done that as well, and so on. That person who has understood and studied the works of the Rishonim, like Havot HaLevavot, and Rabbeinu Saadia Gaon, and Rambam, and Rabbi Yehuda Levi, etc., will have will be such a person's mind and general points of reference, and therefore this person's ability to perceive and appreciate things from different angles will be much greater than someone who is much more limited in scope. So all these things have to be taken into account when thinking about a general derech hinuch. Can you be more specific? Yes, I think that there is truth in that criticism, and the opposite is also true. In other words, those who never experience any kind of any truly spiritual, uplifting experience are also at a tremendous disadvantage. In other words, if you look at the way Rambam describes how a person should approach tefillah, well, in order to achieve that level of kavanat halev, one really has to work at it. And the truth is, most Jews do not really work at their kavanat halev when it comes to tefillah, so it's perfunctory. And that's most unfortunate. That's not how it should be. There will always be differences between people on different levels, spiritual, intellectual levels, but a person, a healthy human being, requires a balanced diet, intellectually, spiritually, as he requires a healthy, balanced diet in the nutritional sense. And this is not, as you point out, as you hint, is not true for all. That's true, and that's unfortunate. And Rabbeinu Gadol Haraya Kook Zitzal used to bewail this fact all his life, basically. And he writes explicitly in a number of places that this is the thing that I'm always stressing, that we have to study the non-halachic parts of the Torah, take them much more seriously. He doesn't suggest that one should spend all one's time doing that. In fact, quite the opposite. I'll read to you. Let me quote you something. This is an Igeret, a letter that Rav Kook wrote to his brother, if I'm not mistaken. Just one moment. This letter was written when Rav Kook was in Boysk, in Tal Resh Nun Zayin, 1897. And he's writing to his to his brother. And he writes, a younger brother. He speaks about studying Talmud, and he says, Liknof yedi'ah shelema begampat, in other words, Gemara, Pirush Rashi, and Tosafot, Kesidran, regular study of Talmud, Rashi, and Tosafot, ala seder, la'asot ha'ikar ikar, wa ha'tafel tafel. כי לא ראיתי חכם גדול באמת, כי אם מאותם שמשימים עיקר עסקם בתלמוד בראשונים, ללמוד ולחזור כסדרון ממש. The same Rav Kook writes many times that it's quite wrong that people do not study other parts of the Torah. And we know that we all are familiar with this reality, and the study of Tanakh is something that needs to be mentioned and stressed as well. It was because of the the realization, and which was obvious, I suppose, to many, but it really hit home with a certain Chacham by the name of Rabbi David Bar-Hayim, if I'm not mistaken, in the 17th century. He and later was his son, Rabbi Hillel, who completed the project and expanded on it. But he began to write the Perush, known as the Mesudot on the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. And it's an amazing work. Sometimes he's mamash mechawen la'emeth. He hits the nail on the head more than even all the Rishonim. It's quite amazing. But he wrote a very brief, succinct Perush, and he wrote it in Hebrew, not in Yiddish, deliberately, so it would be appreciated and seen as something worth learning by Talmidei Chachamim as well. But he also had more simple people in mind who could read it if they understood basic Hebrew. He kept it very brief and very simple in terms of the Lashon. And he writes explicitly, if you read his Hakdama, you will see that he says, I'm writing this Pirush because I see that people have basically despaired of studying Tanakh and understanding Tanakh, and it's very important. So we know that Limud Torah has over the centuries in Galuth, over the millennia perhaps, has suffered greatly, and this has to be rectified. No question. Chazal, of course, didn't think by any means that this is how Torah should be learned. In other words, if certain Rabbanim, such as Gaon ben Haimi Brisk, Zitzal, thought that at this point in history, way back then, we're talking about 20 or 30 years ago, he considered it correct to discourage people from studying Tanakh. And whatever we think about that idea at that time, it's clearly the wrong idea today, I believe, for 101 reasons. I think it was actually not correct at any time. It was, I think, a misguided reaction to the Haskalah and to all kinds of people. That there are ways of dealing with those people without doing away with Shalshei Torah. I once heard a certain representative, and Netzer Mishpahat Soloveitchik, a younger person. This is going back a long time, probably 25 years. But I heard a shiur, it was on the radio that he was giving, and he was explaining that the Gdolei Torah, so he claims, at whatever point in time, recognized the fact that the only thing that keeps people from leaving the Torah, from leaving Yahadut, is the study of Gemara Be'iyun. Gemara Be'iyun, that's the only thing that works. Everything else doesn't work or is actually pernicious. Well, that cannot be squared with Le'olam Yeshalesh Adam Yamo Shalish B'Mikra, Shlish B'Mishnah, Shlish B'Talmud. So that is turning the entire structure of Talmud Torah on its head because of a particular problem in a specific time. And I think it can be debated whether it was at any time a reasonable approach to take, but I do not think that it is so today. And even if you think it was the correct thing then, it's still correct today. Let's say then clearly many Rabbanim who think so. But there is a huge price to pay for that. And the price is boruth, lack of understanding, lack of omek, lack of connection to Torah Emet on all levels. So there is a long-term cost to that policy, which is, I would suggest, kaved minaso, too heavy to bear.